Did my plans for continuous blooms for pollinators really work? And showing the results of blooming plants in the monument beds at Four Freedoms Park and what I learned about planting for pollinators. I had two goals. The first goal was to have blooming plants that attracted pollinators from spring until fall. Those are our growing seasons here in the area in the USDA hardiness zone where I live. My second goal was to have a mixture of native and non-native plants and see how they perform. This bed is at the Four Freedoms Monument, honoring FDR's vision. The first thing that I planted is called Torina. It's a non-native plant. The second plant I chose is French marigolds. Third plant was a dwarf variety of dwarf zinnias or zinnias, depending on how you call them. It's a native plant added this year is twinflower as a ground cover. The next plant that I put in here is yellow top. And it's a native perennial. This bed gets partial shade in the morning. In the afternoon, it's in full sun. All the beds in the Four Freedoms Park get consistent watering and professional soil mix designed for container gardening. Some plants like blanket flower have reseeded from last year. I'm walking to the next monument. The park is actually an acre and is square in shape. Let's look at this northwest corner bed, which gets partial to full shade, and it features shade-tolerant plants. I added pennyroyal, which is a fall-blooming perennial, can bloom in certain zones from midsummer through fall. The next choice was you can see bumblebees on the blossoms. This was chosen because of its variegated leaf color. Additional choice was impatient. Next, let's walk over at the middle. Has zinnias. This area gets full sun from midday on. Planted purple coneflowers, transplants from my yard. They are still getting established. One of them may be blooming later in the fall to provide pollinators some nectar source. Another transplant from my yard and is starry rosemary. It's also getting established and not blooming. On the other side, this area is in morning sun. This is to the north. More purple coneflowers were planted. One of these had some blooms, and these plants are getting established. And blue plumbago, non-native shrubs blooming continuously into the frost. The other plants here are carryovers from last year. They've reseeded. Blanket flowers have really blanketed in this area, which is kind of nice because we don't have to buy more bedding plants. A black-eyed Susan that's sticking up is reseeded from last year. The native plant is beach sunflower, right for the Gulf side of Florida, and the June sunflower is found on the Atlantic coast. This is full sun come afternoon. The west side will be also in full sun. Next, let's look at the Gold Star Mother's monument bed, which is full sun, features several pollinator-friendly plants. In honor of Gold Star Mothers, for mothers and family members who lost sons and daughters during their service in any of the branches of our military. Dwarf zinnia cineas. Plant in the middle is a native called wild petunia and blooms off and on from spring until fall. On this side, different color. And here's a pollinator in action, the plant called blue salvia mystic fire. Some people call it purple. Now, it is a short-lived perennial. I also planted silkgrass here, a late summer fall bloomer. Let's check out a final memorial bed which receives full sun most of the day and late afternoon shade. I planted here plants that are able to tolerate hot conditions. I transplanted this ground cover, moss verbena. You can check out the video. We had French marigolds here, but when we went through a period of drought and intense 100-degree temperatures, they died. So we replaced them with red vincas. I planted silkgrass and it is really thriving. The tips where buds are forming will be covered with little yellow flowers. Yellow was a miss this year. Picked dwarf variety by mistake. Next year, I'll try a taller cultivar or a native. Plants that are also blooming are coreopsis. They are big pollinator attractors. You can see a pollinator while we're here. Carryovers from last year. White salvia. This is busy time for the pollinators. When the sun is out and it's warming up, then the pollinators start to fly. Other plants that are blooming, these are coreopsis, a cultivar, drift rose egg bloomers in the late spring, very early summer. The last blooming plant is Texas sage, a native to the southeastern United States. Top performers for continuous blooms. Notards first, blended flower, twin flower, coreopsis, butch sunflower. The top performers for the non-native Florida-friendly plants were moss verbena, blue and white salvias, zinnias, unas, and marigolds. All attracted a variety of pollinators, all growing seasons. Plants that did not bloom were the yellow top, and those are fall bloomers. Silkgrass, which I thought was going to be a very late bloomer, may bloom, so I will have blooms for the pollinators, so that ends up being successful. I hope you found inspiration for your own pollinator garden. Share your experiences in the comments and subscribe. Garden Yay for gardening updates and tips. See you again next time.